Cue the hooky goods and dodgy French. Welcome to Watch Mojo UK, and today we'll be counting down the top 10 episodes from the long-running Only Fools and Horses series, a TV show that tells of the unforgettable calamity which is the legendary Trotters independent traders crew.
What have we got ourselves into here?
Before we begin, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe for more great content.
For this list, we have picked 10 of the most iconic side-splitting segments from what is undoubtedly one of the greatest British sitcoms of all time. So, without further ado, bonjour.
You know what this means, Rodney, don't you? What? It means that you're a bigger plonker than I thought you were!
Number 10. The Miracle of Peckham. In need of some money to save a local hospice, Del goes about publicising a so-called miracle in a church, where a statue of the Virgin Mary is seemingly weeping. Slapping his trademark creative marketing all over it, Del quickly turns into a saint.
I don't think I could exploit.
Now, you couldn't, Father, but I'm shit hot at it.
So what's the angle then? Well, the miracle is no more than the result of a leaky roof, and Del knows it. He still takes money off those who want to witness it though. Of course, he has the best intentions in helping fund hospice repairs, but it still goes to show just how wheeler-dealer Del can be, given a bit of rainfall and a religious effigy.
God bless you, my son.
Number 9. Chain Gang.
Do you get the impression all is not going according to plan?
A textbook example of the teacher becoming the pupil, Del and the gang find themselves conned after a gold chain deal goes south, with a manipulative Arnie faking a heart attack. It's all very Cluedo until they cotton on to what's happened.
What's the matter, Rodney? You look like you've seen a ghost.
Hell-bent on getting their own back, they hatch an elaborate plan to catch a con-man, and they do so in glorious fashion. As they all come together to pull it off, the episode oozes chemistry between many of the memorable characters, be it the Tash sporting Boise, dim-witted Trigger or tag-along Albert. And who can forget the sweet, sweet finale?
Wonderful.
You don't look too well.
Number 8. The Longest Night.
Go on, open up the safe! Yes, of course. I'm a right villain, I am.
You'd think being held up by gunpoint would stifle the old Trotters, but you know what they're like, they always come out on top. After being roped into a robbery at a supermarket, the guys end up spending the night with a gunman, played excellently by the hilarious Vaz Blackwood, who plans on stealing from the shop safe first thing in the morning.
Do you remember the Scarlet Pimpernel?
It weren't you, is it?
It turns out there is a conspiracy afoot, but it's the way in which Del, Rodney and Albert kill time by befriending the thief and trying to hide the fact that they sold him a moody watch that really makes this episode classic. And watching Del unravel the ruse is priceless.
Chambousy Nouvelle. God dear.
Number 7. Hole in One.
Pick him up!
I know what I just said, but you don't know what sort of damage he's done. He might have broken something.
Yeah, he has. About 4 dozen bottles of Guinness.
An elderly person taking a fall is no laughing matter, but this instance is an exception. Unfortunately, poor old Uncle Albert has a tumble in the Nag's Head cellar, prompting Del and Co to try and sue the pub. What follows is a saga of courtroom encounters, where each piece of evidence slowly comes together to reveal that this isn't the first time Albert has been cellar-bound, and that he's just as much a con artist as his nephews.
I don't believe it.
Arguably Albert's greatest episode of the series, we watch as Del and Rodney take a back seat only to be left as gobsmacked as us at the end.
Sorry, boys.
Number 6. Heroes and Villains. Na, etc. There are quite a few plates spinning in this episode. Raquel and Cassandra are away at their estranged parents, Del is waiting on a home improvement grant, and Rodney's having bad dreams about Del's potentially evil son Damien. It's a certain caped crusader fiasco that makes it one for the history books though.
Will you get back inside the van? I don't want people seeing you dressed like that.
On their way to a costume party dressed as Batman and Robin, Del and Rodney's van breaks down, forcing them to take to the streets, more specifically, the mugger-laced back streets, making for one of TV's greatest reveals ever. Oh yeah, did we mention that the costume party turns out to be a wake? Someone fetch the socially awkward atmosphere repellent spray. Number 5. Cash and Curry.
Police.
Another instance of Trotters independent traders being at the receiving end of a scam, Cash and Curry sees the guys mediating between two rivals with what they think is a priceless family heirloom.
I would pay £4,000.
It turns out it's only worth a few quid, well, 17 to be exact, and the guys lose £2,000 in the process. We really are rooting for the lads in this one, as their plan is seemingly flawless and really rather intelligent. But we know it's never as straightforward as that. Dell's black belt origami skills and wicket-keeper prowess make for some textbook Trotter tropes, which all lead to a rather devastatingly hilarious conclusion.
Well, there's a curry house down the road, Del. No, only joking, Del boy. Del! Only joking, Del!
Number 4. Miami twice. Oh to be in England.
Hey, I'm coming to Miami with ya.
No, you bloody ain't.
Said to be David Jason's favourite episode of the series, the second episode of this 2-part Christmas special has Del inadvertently posing as a mob boss. When some mafiosos discover that Del just so happens to look like their boss, Don Vincenzo Acchetti, who is on trial, they invite him into their home and plan to kill Del to put the whole thing to bed. If only it was that easy. They try sending him out to sea on a death trap jet ski, and even shooting him at the dinner table, but neither works. The sudden realisation that he's a dead ringer for the Don, Americans failing to understand Cockney slang, and Boise being the knight in shining armour all make this one of the most memorable of the Fool's back catalogue.
Welcome home, boys.
Number 3. To Hull and Back.
Hello? What are you doing in there then?
This little ditty has everything. Getting lost at sea, diamond deals, conspiracies, and sting operations. Somehow Del convinces Rodney and Uncle Albert to smuggle some diamonds into the country with him, and after a nightmare journey across the sea from Hull to Amsterdam and back, they return only to be nabbed by the old Bill, specifically arch-nemesis Roy Slater.
And there is nothing you can do about it.
Much like other specials in the series, the lack of a laughter track and a pretty intense standoff make this a genuinely edgy episode. The Trotters' pilgrimage for $15,000 is one of the great slogs of the series and brings with it some of the best moments between the Trotter trio, including Uncle Albert's expert navigating skills.
What's this little boat?
Number 2. A Touch of Glass.
Wait, you shouldn't be pushing a car like that at your age. Keep your knees bent and your back straight.
Yes, the Trotters posing as yet another group of experts, this time chandelier cleaners for a very well-off Lord Ridgemere. Tasked with cleaning a pair of priceless fixings, as you'd expect, it all ends up being a bit of a farce, with Del spitting out spurious chandelier facts and Rodney, as always, sweating profusely in the wings.
See, asking a trotter if he knows anything about chandeliers is like asking Mr. Kipling if he knows anything about cakes.
The payoff comes right at the end though, with a scene that will literally have you covering your mouth in disbelief. The story goes that the guys were threatened with the sack if they corpsed in this disastrous finale, given that the prop chandelier cost around $6,000. Smashing 'tis not. Number 1. The Jolly Boys Outing.
It's the Jolly Boys outing.
The what?
It's the Jolly Boys outing. We've been going on them for years.
A coach trip to Margate. Sort of like a holiday to the Bahamas, except not. What could possibly go wrong, right? Whether it's the rowdy group coach journey, the lack of sun at the beach, or the idea of staying in a rubbish bed and breakfast, there's just something about this episode that makes us nostalgic.
I'm going where the sun keeps shining through the pouring rain.
From handing out squashed homemade sandwiches to pulling over at the side of the road because something somewhere on the coach is smoking, the Jolly Boys outing is the perfect hat tip to any Brit that's ever been for a budget weekend away, especially with its accompanying soundtrack by Chas and Dave. The perfect concoction of only fools humour and Britishisms. Love it.
Oi, what's your game? You want a cup of tea? Go make one, you lazy old sod. Go on.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from Watch Mojo UK and subscribe for more great content.